You will hear a tourist calling a receptionist for some information. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 4. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 4.
Greek island holidays. Can I help you?
Yes, I hope so. I have a friend who's just come back from Corfu, and she's recommended some apartments in Arillas. She thought they might be on your list.
Arillas. Let me check. Can you give me the names?
Yes. The first is Rose Garden Apartments. Could you tell me a little bit of information about the apartments? Its features and prices, for instance?
Well, at Rose Garden they have a huge parking lot and it is free parking. So it can be very convenient for some big families who drive there to spend holidays.
Oh, that's great. Our whole family will be going.
And there's a big swimming pool inside which can accommodate over 50 people. We are thinking of replacing it into an aquarium, but it's still in discussion.
That sounds exciting. What about the cost?
$219.
That seems reasonable. I'm just jotting down some notes. Now the second one my friend mentioned was called Blue Bay.
Blue Bay? Oh yes, in fact that's very popular and it has some special features.
Really?
The main attraction is the large man-made lake, and it's only around a kilometer from some shops.
Is it much more expensive than the first one?
Actually, it's $50 cheaper than the first one. That's mainly because they don't have a parking lot there. Moreover, we plan to install a lift, but we are currently short of funds, so we don't have it at the moment, and this apartment isn't really suitable for those with disabilities.
Right. Now there are just 2 more apartments on the list. The third one is Sunshade Apartments.
This one is on top of a hill with a huge parking lot. Each room used to have a nice kitchen, but we have turned it into a beautiful garden since our customers don't cook much, and they have shared barbecue facilities.
Sounds great.
Yes, it is well equipped.
How much does it cost?
$490.
I don't think that would be within our budget, unfortunately. And the last one sounds a bit expensive too. The Grand Apartments.
That one is quite reasonable. There's no parking lot, but parking on the street requires no charge. Many teenagers and businessmen have come here to spend their summer holiday, but children make the biggest part of our customers. There is a huge painting room for them.
Sounds lovely. Okay, I will think about which one to book with my family.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation.
That's fine. We've got plenty of apartments here when you come. Is there anything else you need to know about accommodation?
Oh, actually, could you tell me some more details about Arillas in general?
Sure. What would you like to know?
Well, my friend told me that Arillas was pretty, but I don't know what the best way is to see the town.
Well, if you want to enjoy the scenery, then the Blue City bus is recommended. Just a second while I check. Ah, that one is a business route, mainly for commuters. The green one is a double-decker which offers a nicer view.
I also heard that the ferry boat trip is quite popular.
Yes, if you want to immerse yourself in the magnificent sea views, then the ferry boat trip is a must. The trip used to last 35 minutes, but we made it a little bit longer to 50 minutes in response to our customers' demands. A 30-minute seafood dinner is included in this trip.
Okay, and one more question. I like riding bikes. Can I rent a bike and cycle around the town?
Of course. There is a mall on Main Street and Arillas Bike Hire is located behind it.
Okay, I have made a note of that.
Furthermore, I'd like to suggest 3 famous museums, from which you can learn native history and culture.
That sounds fun.
Okay, the first one has an exhibition of the interior design as well as some famous paintings and sculptures. Some of the paintings are donated by some well-known scientists.
That's great.
Yeah, the second one is about something that is familiar to us, but actually most people don't know much about it, which is fizzy drinks or soda. The visitors will be shown the history of some famous products in this industry and how they are produced. It's interesting to know that some products have been taken to the space before.
Wow. I would like to go there.
Yes, you should. And the last one is about some special phenomena outside the planet where we live. Some experts are there to unveil the mystery if the visitors have any questions. Various machines and equipment are displayed inside. You can't miss it. Are there any more questions for now?
No, that is all.
I hope you have a happy journey.
Thank you.
That is the end of section 1. You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Part 2. You will hear a man talking to a group of people about the Melbourne Zoo. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 15.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Melbourne Zoo. My name's Mark, and I'd like to welcome you today. If you have a moment, I'd like to give you some information about our zoo before you enter. Please feel free to ask me any questions at the end of my talk. As you know, it's November now, and that means longer days. I have some good news for you. Anyone who hates getting up early in the morning can now enter the zoo after dinner. Because of the time of year, we are offering a 2-hour mini tour after 7 p.m. Seeing the animals at a different time of day will be a fascinating experience for many of you, and I encourage you to sign up. Unfortunately, due to a fire last month, we no longer allow bonfire nights. By the way, we have been planning 2 parties for Christmas next month. We'll post the details on our website. It should be a lot of fun. So let me tell you a little about our residents here at the zoo. Despite what was recently reported in the media, the most popular animal around here is not the kangaroo or even the sheepdog. No, our star animal here is without doubt the koala. They are sedentary creatures and can sleep for up to 20 hours a day, so you'll have to keep an eye out for them. You should be able to spot some of them in the treetops hiding behind branches. But if you're lucky, you might see one run across your path. Of course, we do have kangaroos. They are truly fascinating creatures. It might interest you to know that they are the only large animals that use hopping as a means of locomotion. They are generally very friendly, and while we have no problems with people feeding them, we always tell our guests that it's important to stand with an upright posture when giving them food. The kangaroos may interpret you bending over as a sign of aggression, so please be careful. Also, no matter how cute the babies are, any physical contact should be avoided. The adults are quite protective of their young while they are still in the pouch, so please refrain from the urge to give them a pat. They aren't greedy animals and will generally stop eating once they are full, so if you have some extra food, you might need to find another one to feed. As you may have heard, our wild dog pen is temporarily closed, but it should reopen soon. You'll be happy to know that our dogs are all fine and in good health, and I think they are quite excited about their new home. Right now, we are fixing the fences. They are wild animals after all, and we need to consider public safety before opening the exhibit. But please come back to see them when we are finished. Speaking of return visits, if you enjoy our zoo and want to come back, you may be interested in getting a discount ticket. We used to sell them at the entrance of the zoo as well as on our website, but the website is currently under maintenance, so the coupons are available only at the cafe near the gift shop for this year. So, if you're interested, make your way over there once you are ready. Be informed there are a lot of tourists around today, so the earlier, the better.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20. Now listen carefully and answer questions 16 to 20.
Now, if I can bring your attention to the map of our zoo, I'll provide a brief description of the grounds so that no one gets lost. If you'd like to see some of our animals up close, then you should visit one of our shows in the arena. We have a show every half hour, so you're sure to see something. We are at the entrance. To get there, cross the bridge and go straight to the end of the path and you'll find it to your right. For those who are looking for a quieter place to learn about the history of our zoo, in the north of the zoo we have an educational hall ready for you. It's easy to find, just to the west of the toilets. With such beautiful weather right now, I know many of you would love to spend the afternoon having a picnic. There is a great spot for you in the zoo. It's the area surrounding the Botanic Garden and it's also facing the river. The view is fantastic there. Some of you may recall that our photo printing site was in the northeastern corner of the zoo. It has now been moved to the building next to the bridge. Finally, I'm sure you've noticed that it's quite warm today. If you're not up for walking, don't worry. We have bike sheds at different locations across the zoo, and the bikes are free for our guests. So just grab one and take it for a ride. Once you've got your bike, it's only a 5-minute ride to the gift shop, and the exit is just beside it. You can't miss it. Please note that cycling is only permitted on the designated paths. All right, that is the end of my talk. I hope you have a great time visiting all the animals. Take as many pictures as you like, and don't forget to share them with your friends. Now, does anyone have any questions?
That is the end of part 2. You now have 30 seconds to Part 3. You will hear 2 students named Joy and Tim discussing their classroom management project. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 25.
Hi, Tim. I thought you'd never get here. We still have so much of our classroom management project to complete. I don't know how we'll get it done.
Take it easy, Joy. Our results for this course won't be high enough if we rush to finish. It's our final assignments for the semester. We don't have any other projects to do, so we can focus on this.
I'm not worried about my results, but we need to finish it because part of the project is to implement the results of our research and make the classroom a better learning environment. If we don't start soon, we'll run out of time. You know, the semester will finish next month.
That's true. What do you think of the theory chapter in our textbook? I don't think we should bother with it.
Are you saying that because you find the theory in that chapter too difficult to understand, or is the chapter just too long?
Neither. My real issue is that it doesn't have much bearing on the subject we're researching. Our project is on classroom management, not on company structuring.
There are parallels, though. We're learning about management and structure for careers in business management. This classroom-based project is just a training ground.
Maybe. Anyway, last time we were considering the benefits of a discussion board in each home group room. What have you come up with?
The role of the discussion board is for sharing ideas. Each of us can learn from what others have done before us. I thought instead of the students merely stating what textbooks they think will be beneficial, it would be more useful to document what they've already studied and the reactions they had to the material.
In that way, others can find books that will further their own research. That's great.
What about you? How have you been getting on with your analysis of classroom structure?
I've been thinking about what we should discuss in our essay on that topic. The teacher's role has been discussed in previous research papers, as has the important relationship between teachers and their students. But I haven't come across much research on the place an individual student holds in the classroom. So, this is what I want to talk about.
That could be a controversial topic. The roles have slowly evolved. Traditionally, the teacher dominated the classroom. Now, the general idea is that the teacher is a mentor to guide students' learning rather than telling them what to do.
I agree. It places the students on a more equal footing with the teacher, so the students have more respect for their teachers. Should we conduct interviews with the teachers regarding this developing interaction? It's not required that we do it. We could interview the students instead.
I was considering it, but I think it may be difficult for many of the teachers to find the time. I tried to have a discussion with some of the professors, but they were all tied up with marking the first-year students' exam papers and suggested I come back in a week or so.
If that's the case, we'd better not bother them. Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30. Now listen carefully and answer questions 26 to 30. What about this last research question about the factors that contribute to successful learning outcomes?
Well, obviously, classroom management comes into it. I think for students, it's impossible to gain the full benefits of studying without it. In fact, I'd say it is the single most important factor of success in learning.
I agree, but I think feedback is pretty important too. There has to be a real dialogue going on between teachers and students, and constructive criticism is essential to students' progress and development.
True, and I've been thinking about the shift in roles in recent years, but the essentials are still the same. For instance, effective lesson planning is pretty fundamental. Teachers have the responsibility to do it properly.
I agree. That is a requirement for every teacher. I believe that each student learns at his or her own pace. Some students may need individual tutoring. I think it should be a matter of choice, though, as it doesn't work well for everyone.
You are right. I'd like to see more supervision in the lab too. Some of the students need a lot more help than they're getting.
Yes, that's true. And it would also be beneficial if students had more access to technology. Nowadays, students and teachers can use few simple clicks with a computer to finish something that might take them hours or even days in the past.
I agree. Even though funding technology can be expensive, it pays in the long run.
I am not sure. We can record it in our research, though, as a recommendation. That is the end of part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 3.
Section 4. You will hear a talk on the research of the sensory systems of different species. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now, listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second lecture in our series on animal senses. Today I'll be comparing the sensory systems of different species and discussing how these senses enable them to explore their environment. When it comes to the sense of smell, you may think that human beings have powerful and well-evolved sensory systems. However, some animals have a sense of smell that is far more powerful than ours. Dogs, for example, have a sense of smell that is 40 times greater than a human's and can distinguish 220 kinds of smell. Some animals can even smell odours that are undetectable by the human nose, such as carbon dioxide. There are also animals that have a relatively weak sense of smell. For example, there are species of beetles that can recognise the odours of certain plants but not others. The bee is an interesting example to examine in reference to smell because they experience this sense via their antennae. Bumblebees have stings, but it's rare that they actually use this weapon. When a bee feels threatened, it will use its legs to signal and warn others about the threat before it stings. This is called a signalling posture and involves the bee lifting its two back legs into the air. Within any hive, there is a hierarchy with the queen bee at the top. The queen bee is able to control the colony by monitoring its movement through her feet. The queen bee is the only reproductive female in the entire colony, and she is also able to sting multiple times, unlike the worker bees that will die if they sting. In the insect world, scent can also be used to facilitate mating, as females decide whether or not to mate with a male, depending on the quality of his scent. One such example of this is the female butterfly, who will only mate with the male butterfly that produces the strongest pheromones. This is how the species ensures that only the best genes are perpetuated in order to create the strongest offspring. Next, we move on to the hearing sense of beetles. Interestingly, beetles do not have ears, but instead use their feet to detect vibrations caused by sound. This is particularly useful when searching for food among the trees in which they live, as they are able to detect the location and movement of their prey by monitoring vibrations in the woodlands. The final sense that we'll be looking at today is sight. Snakes are a particularly interesting case study, as they do not see shapes and colours as humans do. but instead hunt their prey by detecting the heat radiating from their mouths. This makes them incredibly effective predators, as they are able to zero in on their prey very quickly and efficiently. From a distance, a snake is able to locate the heat radiating from a mouse, for example, and upon moving closer will be able to determine its body shape. This can help prevent the snake from attempting to attack prey that is too large for it. Once a snake has killed and eaten its prey, it goes into a state of hibernation, whereby all of its energy is directed towards digesting the food stored in its stomach. Depending on the size of the snake and its prey, this hibernation can last from hours to days. Once fully fed, a large snake will not need to eat again for the next couple of weeks. During the breeding season, however, female snakes will feed more frequently. The heat detection of a snake is very complex, and can be even more effective than the vision of a human. It not only uses heat to determine the location of its prey, but before it commits to hunt, it will also use the heat to calculate how much distance it has to travel in order to reach it. This prevents the snake from wasting energy hunting prey that is too far away to catch.
That is the end of section 4. You now have half a minute to check your answers. That is the end of the listening test. In the IELTS test, you will now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the answer sheet.